Hopefully people appreciate my shirt too. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Loose opening for these. Hey guys, it is the Indy Mayhem Show. I'm Mike Sorgat, Sorgatron on the Twitter. Here, still under yellow alert. Yellow alert? I'm thinking this in Star Trek terms now as we go further in the color codes of the lockdown here in Pennsylvania. But here is the show that we talk with people in and around independent professional wrestling. It's been hard to do that lately, but we've been finding some new ways that we can hopefully help out wrestlers, people around indie wrestling with their conversations like we're going to have today and hope to in the next several weeks as well. But of course, please check out everything at indiewrestling.us and wrestlingmayhemshow.com. At indiewrestling.us, please, of course, support all of our friends of the show of Indie Wrestling with the COVID-19 support page. A lot of pro wrestling tees and Patreons and whatever have you that is set up for each individual wrestler. Please support them if you are fortunate enough to be able to, and help spread the love, because we don't know when wrestling is going to come back in full force like it used to be. And I want to encourage people to please go help out the people that have entertained you through these years, and please continue to do that. So today, this is a conversation that's been in the back of my mind for a while, as I've been seeing this post for a while, and we've alluded to it a few times on this show, on the Wrestling Mayhem Show, of course. And I wanted to make sure if we were going to have this conversation with the subject directly, we did it the right way. So we're going to be talking about trademarks. Don't get sleepy yet, okay? First of all, I want to introduce our experts. First, I'm going to start with somebody we brought in for this one that is not directly involved in this, but has some experience in, the law. He is the Gavel David Lawless, joining us right now. How you doing?
What's up, morons? As the Gavel would say.
So we brought you on because you're not the subject of this, but you're kind of our expert. And I should make the disclaimer. My wife reminds me of this every time because she's a former paralegal herself. This is not legal advice. This is just kind of an overview and kind of a look at options, so people are kind of more educated about I guess trademarks in general and things that can happen and everything that goes with. So the Gavel David Lawless isn't just a fun nickname. Give us a little bit of background why we have you here today.
So to those that might not be aware out there, my real name is Max Petrunia, and I've been practicing as a lawyer for a decade. I've been the greatest attorney and professional wrestler in the world for the last 5 years, the Gavel David Lawless. But for whatever reason, the Lord has blessed me with the opportunity to be a professional wrestler and a lawyer, and to be able to help people in the wrestling industry with legal matters, and also to be able to educate some my brothers and sisters in wrestling, to be able to allow them to protect their brands, protect their images, and quite frankly, if you could talk to some other wrestlers too, to help them out with some personal issues as well. I'm always happy to help people. If anyone wants any information on my practice, just so I can make a little plug here, it's maxpetruniapc.com, and there you'll find my smiling face and a way to contact me professionally. But I've been intimately involved with trademark law for the better part of, we'll say, the last 3 to 4 years. A lot of my trademark law came from understanding copyrights. One of my best friends in the world runs a music festival and has been the lead singer in a very popular band for the last decade. So I started to educate myself about copyright law and trademark law associated with music. And from there, I've done more research and had the opportunity to do more digging on copyright and trademark as it relates to branding, clothing, wrestling, you name it. So when one of my friends and someone that I've shared the ring with for quite a number of years was involved in a trademark matter, he had, I think I can say he had called me initially when this happened, and we'll be hearing from him soon to tell his story of what transpired. But with everyone at home now, I think we all can agree that this would be a really good opportunity for wrestlers to educate themselves on what I would consider probably the most important business side of independent professional wrestling right now. And we can touch on why that's so important moving forward with the state of the wrestling industry. But I think it's critical right now for wrestlers to educate themselves on how they can protect their brands with a proper trademark. And I think one thing you've seen as a transition in the industry for the last couple of years is even the major wrestling companies are not changing people's names when they get signed to promotions. They're coming in with their existing names and their brands, similar to what the music industry has done. They want to sign people that have a following and that have garnered support. So individuals that have a right to their trademark will necessarily be in a better position of negotiation for merchandise splits and just to be able to protect themselves and add value when they enter a promotion.
Fantastic, and definitely something to look forward to here. So with us also, I guess the subject at hand is the man. Do we have to say formally known as the Reaper? Held up name as the Reaper. Otherwise, Matt Connard is with us today. How you doing, Matt?
Oh, I'm peachy. How are you guys doing?
All right. So tell us the story about, some people have read about this, of course you've seen on your social media, but for those that may be stumbling on us the first time, tell us what happened with your Reaper moniker.
Well, it all started at a show down in Nitro, West Virginia for IWA East Coast. I was on the same bill as AEW star Sean Spears. I almost called him Ty Dillinger. I wasn't even working with Sean. He was working with Jason Kincaid that night. I can't even remember. Regardless, you would not have thought he even knew I existed. He had positioned himself to the back of the locker room, which is fine. The star thing to do, I guess. I shook his hand, said hello, did the cordial thing, and then just went about my business. I didn't think he was watching, paying attention. Night goes off without a hitch. He leaves after intermission to collect his money or whatever. And then time goes on. This was October of 2019. Fast forward to January, and I get sent this DM from someone on Twitter with a link to an article saying he had trademarked the Reaper. Now, under any other circumstances, I would have just thought, great minds think alike. That sucks. Oh, well. But considering we were on the same card literally not a little more than 2 months ago, and for all of a sudden, because I know this has got to be a process. He didn't just decide 2 months later, I'm just going to trademark this, and then instantly it's news. He would have had to go out of his way soon after to start that process. And here I am looking at this awestruck. Literally the first person I called was Lawless. Because, for lack of a better term, I felt like I just got the rug pulled out from under me, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And Lawless gave me the best advice he could at the moment. I started to approach the avenue of contesting the trademark. The further in the process I got along, the more I realized I do not have it is just not feasible for me financially to pursue it, because alone just to contest his trademark, apply one of my own in contention would have cost around the bill $2,500. We're in the middle of a pandemic, on top of the fact that I don't have $2,500 laying around.
Yeah.
So it's just, I basically, he got it scot-free, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm just now coming to terms with the fact it's gone. I'm at a loss for words now. That's how just devastated I am by the whole thing, because I spent 10 years building this brand, building that name, and it gets taken from me without a fight, because I can't give one.
Yeah.
And if I could just interject here, what frustrates me about Matt's story, and I think Matt's right when he points it out, is and this would be one of my first things when we talk about what you have to do to trademark something, but it actually is much cheaper to be the first one to trademark something than it is to have to fight it once a trademark's filed. And Matt is correct in the sentiment that it would be very expensive to contest the trademark and go through that process. And that's one of the problems when people that have the resources to do it can do that. Some individuals don't even know what the process entails or how much it would cost. And I know of one person that fought to have just an idea trademarked, or at least fought to have it taken away from someone else. And she spent well into the six figures, or no, close to six figures in trying to fight that to protect her brand. And it's a shame because, you know, Mr. Spears, I assume, has the bankroll from the WWE, but also has AEW's legal team behind him, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or at least
I think that's
good.
That's really the thing that stings the most about this whole thing is, had I known this was a possibility, I would have done this years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, had I known it was even feasible for someone to snatch this from me and just take it away, day one, I would have, even if I had to put it on a credit card, borrow money, I don't know, I would have immediately done this, because putting so much work into building something, finally getting some footing on it, getting name value behind it, and just someone able to say, nope, mine, snatch, and you're back to square one. I mean, more people need to realize how realistic a scenario this is for it to happen to them. Maybe if it's just another worker on their level, you know, maybe they can go make a cheap copy of it somewhere else. But if it's an established guy who has direct TV exposure that can take that, has the bankroll to legally bind it, and then just run off with it as completely possible.
Absolutely. So I mean, this is something that is not when you guys are coming up with gimmicks, you know, on the scene through your wrestling training. Like, nobody along the way, they're trying to help you develop a gimmick, but nobody says, "Hey, make sure you trademark it." Right? Like, this isn't a conversation that's generally happening, is it?
No, and I can just speak to this in the sense that I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about what a trademark is versus what a service mark is versus what a copyright is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think over the years, through social media and just general conversation, people will group those terms together and they think that they're homogenous terms. But the truth is that there's very different and distinct meanings to those terms and processes associated with those terms and legal rights that come along with those terms as well. And you know, the shame of this all, going back to what Matt said, is that, you know, it probably would have cost Matt a decent amount of money. $2,500, I'm not sure the exact figures, but it would have cost probably 10% of that to actually go through the initial process of applying the trademark. Now, there could be additional costs that go along once the application process is started. But I think more than ever, this is a very appropriate time for us to provide advice to indie wrestlers about how they can go about protecting their trademark and ways that they can do it themselves without even having to hire a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So go ahead.
I guess this would dovetail into probably your question, Sorg, is how do you do that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's. Okay, so a trademark is a legally recognized right to some type of name or service mark. And one of the best things that I can recommend to any type of wrestler that endeavors to go about the trademark process is to first start by using the resources that our own government has put out. And you want to go to uspto.com. That is the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Now, anyone can file for a patent, for a trademark, for a copyright, and you can do it without a lawyer. They recommend that you hire a lawyer who specializes in that area. If you do want to go the extra mile, you could do that. But I'll tell you a way you can figure out how to do your trademark without having to hire a lawyer. The first thing is that there are subcategories of trademarks. So trademarks, there's like 40 or 50 designations of trademarks that you can get. There's trademarks for performers. There's trademarks for clothing. There's trademarks for video games. There's trademarks for voice acting. So my first recommendation is go to the USPTO website and find the Federal Copyright and Trademark Data Bank. And on that data bank, you can search every single registered trademark that exists in the law. I would recommend looking at the trademark for CM Punk and looking at the trademark for AJ Styles, because those are two individuals that own their own trademark, that own the trademark before they went to WWE. And if you're looking to create a brand that if you would get signed to a wrestling company, you would be able to take with you, that will tell you exactly the subcategories that you will have to apply for when you register your trademark and what's included in there. And that's a free database. Anyone can access it by going to uspto.gov.
Excellent. So that's the first thing. And so once you've kind of determined, okay, nobody has the Reaper, nobody has, oh crap, somebody has CM Punk. You've determined that thing. It's early on. Here's the other question. How early, because we know, I know wrestlers that have had a gimmick. They were given to them once they got out of training, and 6 months later they decided to do a different one. How early should some consider getting that trademark taken care of?
To be honest with you, and I want to first start by saying that even myself as a practicing lawyer, I do not have a trademark to the gavel David Lawless Esquire.
Mm-hmm.
So, either I'm asleep at the wheel or I don't think that anyone thinks my character is valuable enough to steal. But, or no one could do it like me for the gavel.
Yeah.
But, here's one thing I'll say. A lot of our listeners out there probably follow wrestling dirt sheets or wrestling websites. And one of the things you'll notice is about monthly, those wrestling websites will put out stories about trademarks that are registered by the WWE or AEW. That's where people will say, hey, WWE's trademarking X, Y, Z, and Q. Is this going to be a new pay-per-view? Is this going to be a new game?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, the length of use of the trademark itself does not matter when you're applying for it. The only issue you'll run into whenever you're looking at the length of use of a potentially trademarkable entity or name is if there's an objection to the registration of the trademark, and then there's factors that go into it to determine how long it's been used by someone else, the strength of the mark, whatnot. So I do have to say that in the event that Matt Connard would have actually objected and gone through the proper channels to object to Sean Spears' registration, and keep in mind, I haven't seen the registration, but he would have a very compelling, if not successful, argument to say that as a wrestling brand and something for wrestling clothing, he has used the Reaper Matt Connard as a trademark for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, I'm sorry.
So I know one thing that came up, and I think, Matt, you got this a lot on your comments too. The term "poor man's copyright" or "poor man's trademark" is used a lot for somebody. In the idea is prior use, proven use could be a defendable case. Is that what we're talking about here? And what is the strength of that?
Well, all right. The reason why you copyright something, you trademark something, is because if someone infringes upon your legally registered trademark,
mm-hmm.
you are entitled to statutory damages under the federal trademark laws.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you sue someone in federal court and you prove that they use your registered trademark without their consent, there is a minimum statutory acceptable damages that they are entitled to legally. Okay, a poor man's trademark, if you will, is if you would sue someone for infringing upon your name, likeness, or trademark that doesn't actually have it trademarked, but you can somehow prove that the mark itself that is being used does have commercial value. So, for instance, there's a case going on right now, which shall remain nameless, where an individual does not have the trademark to their name at the time that merchandise was created, but is attempting to prove through the court system that they were using the name in trade and that someone is infringing upon that. We call it a common law trademark, or a poor man's trademark. So technically, what's funny is if Sean Spears would not have actually trademarked the Reaper, and then he would have started selling shirts as the Reaper Sean Spears, we could have actually sued him. Matt Connard could have sued him saying that he owns the rights in a common law manner to the Reaper because he's been trading with that name for so long. So the reason why you copyright things is, one, because it's federally recognized. And then if you start doing international branding, there are some countries that have recognition of the trademarks from the United States across the globe. But you do it because you want to protect your damages.
Yeah. Yeah. So did we talk about the difference between trademarks and copyrights?
We didn't. So trademark itself is it's a registration of a mark for whatever purpose it's registered for. Okay, so again, I would go back to CM Punk's trademark registration or AJ Styles registration. AJ Styles registration, I believe off the top of my head, last time I looked at it, is for it's like sports entertainment, name on clothing, likeness and character in video games or something. There are numerous categories of trademarking. Okay, so just because AJ Styles owns the trademark to AJ Styles, okay, you have to look at the distinct purposes why his trademark exists. Okay, so if I wanted to register AJ Styles Plumbing, okay, I could probably still register that as a plumbing entity, but I could not start using and trading on that name in professional wrestling because that trademark is already taken.
Right.
So again, you know, the difference between that, copyright means that you own or you have a right in a specific fixed medium. So what you would do is you would copyright a book, you would copyright a song, you would copyright an illustration or a picture. Okay, so the name Bullet Club may be trademarked as a professional wrestling faction, but there is a copyright in the Bullet Club logo.
Right.
If anyone understands the distinction there.
Right. So that would be what they would be off. So when like Pro Wrestling Tees started taking down Bullet Club familiar looking like knockoff parody shirts, I guess you could say, which is parody is a whole other discussion. That's a whole nother podcast. But that was probably more a copyright issue, and also to make good with that company that owns that mark.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I want to make clear for people is that until there's an adjudication by a court or some type of administrative body like the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, there's no right or wrong to how people process this. Okay, so for instance, websites that do hosting for selling shirts or something can choose to remove items from sale for whatever reasons. Okay, so sometimes items will get removed from sale because they violate the terms of service, like it's an offensive shirt. Okay, so even if you own the trademark to the actual image itself, it again is up to Pro Wrestling Tees to decide whether they want to put that shirt on their site or not. So the fact that a shirt gets taken down by a website is not necessarily dispositive of the fact that, oh, this person doesn't have the trademark. Sometimes it's just done because it violates the terms of service or because it's a business decision. And if I had to guess, what Pro Wrestling Tees probably did when they took down the knockoff Bullet Club shirts was weighed, okay, we can make a lot more money if we continue to sell New Japan Pro Wrestling licensed Bullet Club shirts, and if we take down the knockoff Bullet Club shirts. And that's the decision of the website. No one said whether that's a parody in the eyes of the law or not.
Your YouTube strike is not a legal binding thing until you've gone far enough that you have to actually take a legal action, right? Like those
Correct.
kinds of ideas. YouTube is making that decision, not a court. They are citing laws and statutes and things like that.
But none of that is precedential. So the decision that a website makes based on whether their terms of services were violated or not could be used as evidence to show that the user that posted the shirt acted in bad faith, but it is not given the weight of, say, a precedential court opinion or a court order saying, that you are legally entitled to sell this shirt. Now, the question becomes, once someone gets a court order saying they're legally entitled to sell the shirt, does the complaining party that said that it violates a copyright, is that an intentional interference with the contractual or business relationship? So these are all issues that, the internet's been around since the early 90s. So we're pretty far into the use of the internet. But given the proliferation of social media and the accessibility that people have to technology and how rapid it is, we're going to start to see a lot of these issues with social media and trademarking get ironed out. And now, as wrestlers and entertainers rely on merchandise as probably their sole source of income, you're going to see a lot more, I believe, in the court system where people are really ironing out these issues associated with sales of merchandise online.
So I know I kind of took us on a couple different rows there, but let's get back to the trademark, the issue at hand. We talked about like what people can do, looking things up, like, and we talked about the general costs. What can a person do? You mentioned like what a wrestler can do to take care of their trademark, to protect themselves without potentially even having to go to a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, look, what I would do is just off the top. Okay, so let's take the gavel, David Lawless Esquire. Okay, I'll walk you guys through from start to finish the process that would be associated with me registering the gavel, David Lawless Esquire. And if anyone's out there listening and they decide to do this themselves, I am going to object to this, and I'm going to say that you got this idea from me on the Indy Mayhem show.
Yeah, we have prior art right here. This is the record.
So what I would do if I was registering this trademark myself, not being a lawyer, I would go to the USPTO website. I would look at the trademark registry. I would first look at existing copyrights for professional wrestlers, CM Punk, AJ Styles, what have you. I would look at how those names are actually designated in the trademark office. Okay. Then I would search for the name that I'm looking to trademark. In my case, it would be the gavel, David Lawless Esquire. If nothing pops up on the database, if it doesn't hit anything, then that goes to show that no one owns the trademark and no one's applied for the trademark in that name. So I know that I'm good to apply for a trademark in that name. So I would download the application from the USPTO website. I would fill it in. I would make sure I check the proper designation boxes for what I want that designated as, and I would submit that. And I believe the cost of filing for a name trademark is about $275. I think it fluctuates between $275 and $400 or $500, depending on how many different types or designations you're registering. What I would also make sure that you have is some type of screenshots associated with your use of that. So if it's match graphics from promotions, if it's thumbnails of you doing videos on YouTube, just to show that you, the person that's registering the trademark, has actually used the trademark in commerce. If you have T-shirts that have your name on it, you would put a picture of the T-shirt. So once you actually register that trademark, what happens is the trademark gets assigned to an employee of the USPTO administrative agency, and that agent then is your trademark agent. So if they have any questions or there's deficiencies in your application, they will reach out to you and give you a chance to cure it. But then the next phase, which this is really the phase where everyone gets the information that we talked about before, anytime there's a trademark that's registered for, there is what's known as a comment or objection period. Okay, so this is where Mr. Connard learned that Sean Spears had registered for that trademark. And this is how websites can pick this up, because I think it's weekly or bi-weekly, it might even be monthly. The Federal Register puts out it's almost a newspaper, an online publication that has a listing of every single trademark that's been applied for. So a lot of big companies that trademark a lot of big things, like the WWE, probably have dedicated staff that go through these registers to see what's been registered and if they need to object to it. And so once that advertisement is put out by the register, there's an objection period. So I think it's a 60-day objection period possibly. And then if no one objects to the use of the trademark or files an objection to the use of the trademark, then the trademark is granted and you have the right to use that mark. The reason why Matt Connard is right in his assessment that Sean Spears probably applied for that trademark prior to January is because by the time Mr. Connard learned of the trademark application, I think was it early January or mid-January, Matt?
It was early January. I honestly distinctly remember, I think it was January 11th.
Yeah, and I remember you calling me when the article came out. So So look, I don't want to sit here and speculate, and I don't want this to be perceived as us disparaging Mr. Spears in any way. But it wasn't like January 11th he woke up and said, "I'm filing a trademark for the Reaper," and it got out to the press that way. He probably filed that application, I would have to guess, at some point in November or December. And because of the name the Reaper and being probably a commonly used one, I would imagine he filed that probably sometime in November, and it got to the objection period by January. So he had gone through and had an agent registered to him. But so, you'll have situations where people will register trademarks and then people will object. And sometimes there's administrative hearings that are held where testimony is taken by that agency. And then ultimately, the decision of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office can be challenged in court, but I believe you actually have to exhaust the administrative remedies at your disposal before, as a precedent to filing a lawsuit. So the thing I will say to people that want to file for a trademark in whatever gimmick they have is that it's going to cost you a little bit of money up front. I think you can pay by credit card, and you could probably get points on your credit card for paying for it. You may not be successful, but it's going to cost you exponentially more to go through the process of fighting it, because not only would you likely have to hire a lawyer and cull information together to object, but if you're successful, then you probably will have to pay for the trademark itself. So you're actually incurring double the fees you would if you didn't just, pop on the website and do the application. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, the mere application or registration of a trademark does not necessarily result in any type of legal action against you. Okay, or at least I haven't heard of any. So, if you do a database search and you feel like you want to apply for the trademark, do it. The worst that happens is you don't get it, and you continue to use the name as you have before. But if, when you think about what it means to have that trademark, I don't know what that factors into when bigger promotions sign people, but I would imagine that when an AJ Styles or an Adam Cole is coming to the WWE saying, "We want to sign you," I imagine what they're saying is, "Okay, here's what you traditionally offer in your royalties for merchandise, but you're using my name, so I want more." Or maybe they pay an exorbitant fee to get the rights to that trademark transferred over to them. I don't know. I'm just speculating on what the business relationships are like, but
and I think that's happened a few different ways, because there was something like anecdotally over the years, I recall the Dudley Boys when they came over, like that came with the ECW trademarks perhaps, and then they couldn't use it when they left, but every time they drop in they can. Obviously somebody that had that before WWE, CM Punk obviously showed up, left, can use it wherever. AJ Styles, trying to think other guys but then you'll get somebody like Cody Rhodes that can't use Rhodes when he leaves. Well,
and that's the thing too, is a trademark is a commodity. It's an asset. Okay, so no one's saying Matt Connard can't go out and wrestle. Okay, no one's saying that he's precluded from wrestling on shows. What they're saying is that he's precluded from advertising himself as the Reaper, Matt Connard, because that trademark of the Reaper is owned by another professional wrestler. So the idea of people having a trademark is to avoid confusion of the consumers in the marketplace. So if people see a promo poster that says the Reaper will be appearing, they're not confused to think that Sean Spears will be on the show. Or similarly, a promotion is not using the moniker of the Reaper to try to promote Sean Spears or trade off his name without him actually being there. So you're right. I think what happens is, if I wanted to apply for a trademark of Indy Wrestling or Wrestling Mayhem, I could own that. Once I own that trademark, if you wanted to buy it from me, I could sell it to you. But that probably what happened was, and I think WWE does this, the company itself will register the trademark, own the trademarks, which is why the Dudley Boys, when ECW lost all of its assets, that is an asset of the company. Now, how you value that asset is, it's different. Valuing a trademark is very distinct and different from valuing cash on hand. Okay, so when you have a trademark, it's more of an esoteric value in the sense that if I own the name AJ Styles, I could make $1 million selling AJ Styles shirts, or I could make $0. We just don't know. But that is an asset that AJ Styles himself owns. So that is something that he can trade and he can sell to someone. And so if you do have that trademark, and I think Shark Boy was actually one of the people that was one of the first indie wrestlers to trademark his name, and actually I think he got a decent amount of money for the cartoon Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was the no, it was like one of those Spy Kids types movies that like Robert Rodriguez did, right? Yeah.
And I mean, look, the thing is, if you have an idea for something that's not trademarked and you want to trademark it, as long as there's no ill intent in the trademark itself, and you are successful in getting the trademark, then no one can accuse you of trying to commit fraud or trying to hold it over someone's head. So, there's a concept called cyber piracy or cyber squatting, and you have that with trademarks as well. So I couldn't just go out and trademark the name Matt Connard and turn around and say, hey, Matt, I trademarked this. You didn't object. I want to sell it to you now for $4,000. That is, it's malicious intent there.
Yeah.
But in Shark Boy's case, what he probably did, if I had to guess, was he trademarked Shark Boy for entertainment, performances, videos, movies, television, something that would have fallen into the category of whatever the Shark Boy and Lava Girl movie was. When they went to apply for the trademark, he probably got a notice that said that someone's trying to apply for this trademark, and they probably paid him a licensing fee to use it. And so, I mean, look, it's not necessarily something that you shouldn't be out there trying to trademark things that you're going to hold hostage over people, because companies now have protection to be able to do that. But if you get lucky and someone wants to trademark an idea that you already have trademarked, you can use it, and it's an asset, and you can ask someone to pay whatever you want for that licensing fee.
Absolutely. So we do have a couple of comments and questions from the chat room, actually. I want to get to a few of those. Justin Idle's out there saying, so shitty of that dude to do that, especially someone in the business that knows how much a big deal respect is in the business. I mean,
Apparently he doesn't, Idle. Apparently he has no idea what respect means in this business.
Is he a guy? Is he a general performance center guy? Like, I feel like he was with WWE for like 10 years at that point, right?
I believe he went through every single incarnation of development they had.
Yeah.
Until they got to NXT, and then he finally got on television.
Yeah.
Like, I get the fact that he was probably squandering for years in developmental. He finally finds a little success, and then gets pushed right back down.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially at this point, I've been peripherally keeping track of what he's doing because I want to see when the hell he's going to use the damn name. And he keeps piling all of these monikers and like gimmicks on him. Like I saw, he calls himself Heartless. He's using the sharpshooter now. He's like, how much is enough?
Yeah.
Like at this point, I'm more mad that he's not using the damn name.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and that's the thing, Connor, is you should probably continue to check the trademark registration website, because at some point that trademark will expire or he could abandon it. So once it's abandoned or expired, it's free to use. And if he doesn't use that mark, you could then submit the application or submit the evidence to say, I used this mark, I want it now.
It's kind of like if you're kind of looking out for a domain name that's been captured by somebody, you keep an eye on expiration, it gets let go. You can snatch it up from GoDaddy for $12, right?
Yeah,
that
and
kind
I mean,
yeah.
And as one of my good friends in the industry, and also as just a wrestling fan, I've been very curious to see when he was going to use that, because I met Sean Spears at an IWC show, and I talked to him for a while. He was a really nice guy, but I've been curious, Connor, too, and I don't really understand how he's going to use the Reaper gimmick as part of what direction they appear to be sending him in AEW, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if he abandoned that or didn't use it in trade at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going to definitely keep an eye on it then, because maybe by the time all this craziness the world's going through clears up, it'll be free, I'll grab it, and everything will be fine, and all the stress I've been putting myself through will be for nothing. But it's crazy, the timing as well, because I'm sure everyone else, you guys have probably heard about the similar situation that went down with the Revolt in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And the FTR now, or whatever the Revival are calling themselves. It's like, what? their case is a little different because those two knew those guys. Allegedly, they had been cross paths in the scene for years and knew of it, and they just went ahead and did it. I'm afraid it's not anything new, but I'm afraid this is going to become more and more of a trend, especially as these two companies start competing more and more. People are going to continue to get things snatched from them. We always complain as indie wrestlers about coincidences. This wrestler happens to use a move that I've been using for years, blah, 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 blah. I'm sincerely worried about these guys, especially AEW guys, just because they have more freedom to pop on these indie shows, make a quick buck, and then go back to TV.
Yeah.
I don't want other wrestlers to live with the regret I have to at the moment. I don't want them to coddle and grow and nurture something for a majority of their career just to have to start from ground zero after years of breaking their body down and basically having to be a clean slate all over again.
And this would be the opportune time for me to say that if anyone's listening out there that wants to consult on trademark law, they could go to maxpetruniapc.com or call me, and I'd be happy to offer some legal assistance and guidance. But, one thing I will say to all the wrestlers out there, and especially to you, Matt, is that having gone to law school over a decade ago and having been involved in the entertainment industry in some capacity, I could tell you that this is not something that is just isolated indie wrestling. It's certainly something that has become a little more prevalent now because there's a major indie company that's on television. But I know that there have been improv troupes in the past that have literally had their improv acts directly ripped and used on Saturday Night Live.
Wow.
And the question becomes, how do you protect certain things that aren't protectable? And then the other thing becomes, too, sometimes you do have people that are innocently using names. I mean, I can't speak to what happened with the Revival versus Revolt, but I mean, I could see a way that the Revival innocently thought that registering a tag team name as the Revolt was not the same as an independent promotion that has a faction of the Revolt being the same thing. And I don't know what their intent was in doing it. I'd like to think the best of everyone. But I think what has been highlighted more than anything in the last 5 years with the proliferation of technology is the fact that there's so much content out there. There's so much information. I mean, anyone can become a content creator with cell phones and iPads and computers, that the idea of what's protected and what's not, and how people are able to monopolize that, it turns into a disparaging situation, much the same way that individuals that have resources versus individuals that don't can literally go bankrupt. I mean, there's a YouTube content creator right now who was originally sued by the Major League Baseball pitcher Trevor Bauer, who's now being sued by the Major League Baseball Players Association, because this guy runs a baseball training academy and he started taking clips of the pitchers pitching and breaking down their pitching styles. And what they're saying is that using their footage and their names creates this impression that they support his coaching methods. And so this guy is possibly going to lose his entire business or go bankrupt because the Major League Baseball Players Association, which, if you can imagine, has billions of dollars, is suing this guy because he's creating content that he's making money off of. So it's what Matt said, the doom and gloom of it is it's a dangerous time. And like he said before, if anyone wants to talk about this, I'm available. I mean, people that know me from the locker room know that I will always talk to them about legal issues. But if you're serious about doing this, I can certainly try to help in whatever professional capacity I can.
Absolutely. Also from the chat room, Justin Idle was asking, he's worried about your backstock of merchandise there, Matt. He says, what did you do with your remaining merchandise? Are you still able to use them since they were already quote, purchased, made? What's the status there? He's worried about your backstock.
Well, first of all, Justin, thank you for worrying about my financial well-being. I'm doing all right. Luckily, the ones that I have left in stock don't have the Reaper on them.
Okay.
That's what's kind of good about half my merchandise is majority of them don't even have the Reaper name on them. Like they will have the image of me in the cloak, you know, the spoofy stuff, and then my name and some sort of title. So thankfully, whatever I have left in stock, I feel like I'm in the right to at least be able to clear that out.
Yeah.
And then as far as the ones that do say that on my Pro Wrestling Tee store, I don't know what's going to happen there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can speak to that too. I mean, look, if Sean Spears would write a letter to Pro Wrestling Tees or file an objection to the use of those T-shirts, which if he's listening, he probably is going to do that right now. Then, you know, Pro Wrestling Tees could be within their terms of service to take it down. But, you know, the truth is, and we've all seen this at every wrestling company that we've worked for from the East Coast to the West Coast, if people that held legitimate trademarks and copyrights really wanted to put independent pro wrestling out of business, they could. If Saban Industries wanted to sue professional wrestlers who used Power Ranger likenesses on their T-shirts, there'd be a lot of poor indie wrestlers, or indie wrestlers would be poorer than they actually are. So, I mean, the truth is that unless someone files the objection, you're not prevented from selling it, Matt, because it's not creating the impression that Sean Spears is endorsing the product. It's just that idea of the Reaper. That's what it comes down to. Trademark law is meant to prevent confusion in the marketplace. So if I would take a picture of Tiger Woods and put it on my website with a caption that says, Max Petrunia is the greatest lawyer in the world, Tiger Woods could sue me because I'm using his likeness to promote my business, which he doesn't. Okay? That's where you run into the issue.
Absolutely. And Justin's also asking, do you get the money back if the name is already taken? I think from the filing fees. Now I believe the filing fees are like the legwork to do the process, whether it's approved or not. Correct?
Yeah. I mean, Justin, I'm going to put this out to you as a rhetorical question. Do you believe that the federal government would refund money to someone because they made a mistake?
Yep, we'll let you stew on that one. Bradley's out there, and I have to say this is a topic that Bradley actually has poked me about having on the show for a while. So good to see everything coming together here. Can either of you discuss how difficult it is to come up with a new character or gimmick? I heard this is very difficult, and how is Matt progressing and coming up with a new direction for himself?
Well, as far as how difficult it is, I was fortunate enough to luck into the Reaper literally my first year in the business. Obviously, it was not the Reaper it became eventually. I literally started my career with a leather vest and a chin beard. I looked like a WCW job guy. But as the years went on and it progressed, I morphed into what I turned into as of today. And not everyone's that lucky. Not everyone is fortunate enough to stumble upon something that they can sink their teeth into right away and grow with. People flounder for years being bland creator wrestler, just trying to, throw stuff at a wall, seeing what sticks. There's people I'm very close to that still struggle with that. I mean, it's all about right place, right time, right idea.
Mm-hmm.
And some people it's a slower burn than others. And as far as how things are progressing with a backup plan, I still don't have one.
Well, hopefully we can. I wanted to end this kind of on a happier note, on a fun note, because I did pose the question to our group over the Wrestling Mayhem Show Facebook group. I wanted them to help, and because I figured you'd probably still be kind of figuring out. Of course, we're not getting right out there the ring that you're working on anything, workshopping anything in person with the fans. So I ask them to share any of their ideas to help you with replacement. Because Matt, coming on the show, we like to help you guys out with new ideas over the years, right?
And I wanted to take this opportunity just to kind of talk about one thing that I've tried to do in the last like 2 years, and I think Matt, this is something to think about also. But like when I started wrestling, I had the idea of doing this lawyer/wrestling character.
Mm-hmm.
The name was kind of secondary, the Gavel David Lawless Esquire. It does, in my opinion, roll off the tongue now. I think I've done a pretty good job of promoting my character. But one of the things that I've tried to do at the different promotions I work at is I actually there's subtle tweaks to my character at every single promotion. And what I mean is, like, I try not to dress the same at every promotion. So at IWC, I'm still the Gavel David Lawless Esquire. I'm an attorney, but I'm in my regulator's gear. At Rise, I'm the Gavel David Lawless Esquire, but I come out with the tie, the sport coat, the button-down shirt, and I wear the tights. And then, if at Imagine Wrestling, I'm the Gavel David Lawless. I come out in a T-shirt and the tights still. So I wanted to make sure that for different promotions I was at, there was some unique wrinkle to the Gavel David Lawless Esquire that made it subtly different. In my opinion, Matt's absolutely right. You put time and effort into your brand and your character. I do think, though, that Matt, even though the Reaper has been taken away from you, the one thing I will say is that as a talent, no one can take away your facial expressions, your moveset, the way that you put a match together. I mean, the concept is, I will always try to market myself as a wrestling lawyer, whatever that character is, because I feel like you could plug me into storylines in any promotion and it would make sense. For you, with this idea of this menacing undead character, you could achieve that goal with different names, but you're still going to have the same movement, the same looks, you could have the same gear too. And I know it's a crappy situation, but again, ending it on a positive note, Matt, you're one of the most talented people that I've shared the ring with. And the things you do and the emotion you evoke from the fans during your matches, I don't necessarily think is tied to the Reaper itself. I think it's more or less your presence, your command of attention in the ring, and whether you are introduced as the Reaper or just Matt Connard, no one's going to be able to take that persona away from you. So I think it'll be cool to see what other ideas people come up with, but just because you don't have the Reaper name, Matt, I wouldn't get discouraged from what you actually do in the ring and how you tell a story.
Absolutely.
I really, that means a lot, buddy. The positive I've taken from this is thank goodness that Sean Spears decided to be a prick during a pandemic. Because now I get to sit on this, I get to mull it over, and I get a chance to regroup. Because if this had happened when things were completely normal, business as usual, I'd be fumbling right now because I wouldn't know what I would do.
Even when it came down, you were kind of taking a break at the moment too, before even the pandemic, right? Yeah, and there's also that I had TV Smooth had killed me, literally buried me to death, and I was kind of regrouping as it was. So it's just going to be this way for everybody, but especially for me, it's just kind of a reset. It's a reset. It's a reassessment. And I mean, I'll echo just what he said. He's completely right when I sit and think about it. It's just a name. Like everything that was behind it, everything that I put into it is all transferable. The Reaper's just a name at the end of the day. And I'll find another one and go on it, which may have already happened because, as you said, Sorg, the fine people of the show have given you a list. Yes,
haven't they?
I have a wonderful list by everybody from Bradley to Justin Idol to the Rev Ron Hunt to our boy cameraman Rob. One of my favorites he's been suggesting for a while that you just call yourself the Creeper and just put a copyright sign in front of Reaper. I don't know how that does with trademark applications and stuff with Mr. Spears, but I think it's at least worth a T-shirt.
That is really. I mean, if you can get over the fact that you would actually have a gimmick name called the Creeper, you know.
We have a bunch. The Reaping, the Pale One. A lot of people like the Pale One and the Pale Rider out of this list from discussions. The Wraith came up a few times. The Soulless. I believe even the Soulless One. Let's see. We also have here the Nightmare, the Daywalker, the Grim Servant of Death, the Reckoning.
See, I like Wraith out of this list, and
Me too.
I'll tell you why. First of all, it's a really powerful name. It's Wraith is a single syllable name. And the other thing to think about is as The Witcher gets prepared to record a season 2 and people are starting to get back into The Witcher. I mean, I bought the game for the first time and it came out 5 years ago and I think it's amazing. Wraiths are one of the characters in there. So I think the Wraith still portrays possibly the message you were going for. The Wraiths actually look like the jacket that you have to wear to the ring. It's crazy. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that that's possible, but those are all cool names.
Yeah, Marcus says the Spectre. I think that's referencing to the Green Lantern character, correct?
Yeah, there's a DC Comics character named the Spectre, which he and I have discussed before as well.
It also is brought up as long as we stay away from ones like Rob brought up the issue when we thought that you were called the Raper on a ring introduction several months ago.
Boy, there's a couple people in indie wrestling that could have taken that name. Am I right?
Oh, boy.
Ooh.
You don't have any rim shot sound effects you could put in there?
15 years. You think I would have hooked up a rim shot machine by now, right?
My goodness.
I heard you mention the Daywalker. Sorry. What about the Nightwalker? I kind of that's provocative. You know, I don't think that's associated with anything else. So. That'll be the Nightwalker.
Somebody's like, some are seriously asking, could you get away with the Grim Reaper, going full on with that, or the Reaper's Reaper was suggested as well. So
what about Hush?
Mm.
It's one of my favorite Batman graphic novels.
Yes.
I seriously did immediately when this happened consider the Grim Reaper, but when people don't know the backstory and how we got here, it feels real. Dick Foley. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it feels real like Kmart.
Yeah.
To that, and I actually thought Lawless about using the Phantom at one point. Because, and it's the closest reference I get to the Phantasm from Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
So that was something I was playing with. But yeah, I consider Grim Reaper, but I just think it's too on the nose.
Hell's Minion, Angel of Death, Death Row, not the record label.
That's I'm going to recommend you don't go with Death Row.
Yeah. They got some money
for a number of reasons.
So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps spearhead the next stage, the next iteration, or the continuing iteration of Mac Honored. But you're right. In the end, you're still Mac Honored. You're still what we remembered. It doesn't matter what giant name is on that screen behind Yet Rise or whatever the case may be. It's you turning in your 30-minute Iron Man match popped up on my radar again this past couple of days, and remember, like that's the stuff you built regardless of who has your name.
Yeah, and Matt, I just want to tell you that in July of 2018, I was looking for what I was going to do with my professional career, and was really at the worst part of my life, and I was able to come out of it better than I ever did before. And having worked with you and known you for as long as I have, and just knowing the passion that you have and the type of character that you have, I'm convinced that you and a lot of other people that are in the industry are going to come out of this pandemic and be even stronger on the other side. So I know we haven't been in the ring in a while, but I believe that the cream always rises, and whatever you come up with from here, I have no doubt it's going to be at the top of the card anywhere just because of the person that you are. So everyone out there, if you've ever felt like you were taken down by the man, just hang in there, because life will always get better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if nothing works out, Bradley said you can use Heel Bradley or Heel Todd from him. He gives you permission.
That's true.
I'd rather retire.
Well, that's what. Hey, we could call you the Laughing Man after that episode here where we had you tell jokes.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about my very short-lived stand-up career.
Yes, for those.
Maybe that's what I'll do next. I'll just go into stand-up. My wrestling name's gone.
No audience stand-up. That'll be a good one.
For those that catch up, we had comedian Matt Light scheduled to be on, and he had to drop out the last minute. So we had another Matt, and we had him tell jokes on the show to, fill in. So thank you for doing that.
That's a tough spot to be put in.
Yeah. He told knock jokes. Bradley was his laugh track. It turned out fine. Guys, thank you so much. Matt, you do have a pro wrestling T-shirt, and you have a wonderful shirt that I know several of our friends have already picked up. Where can people go there and support you?
You can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Matt Connor. There are still every shirt I've ever had up there, even the Reaper one. So if you want to grab what could be a collectible, go for it.
Give 'em I can.
But what I recommend is the brand new, hot selling, as Edric Everhart coined it, "Fact Your Trademark" T-shirt. It's selling like hotcakes. People can't get enough of "Fact Your Trademark," so go grab one of those.
It speaks on so many levels to so many things.
Mm-hmm.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Lawless, where can people find you on the wrestling side? And of course, once again, please give that website for people that need some legal help.
Wrestling side would be on Facebook, the Gavel David Lawless Esquire, Instagram, Gavel David Lawless, and Twitter would be Gavel Lawless. And seriously, if anyone has any legal inquiries or any questions about anything we've discussed today or needs help with anything, if I can't help you, I can certainly find a friend in the legal industry that can. It's Max Petrunya. That's MaxPetrunyapc .com. MaxPetrunyapc.com.
There you
and
go.
So look forward to hearing from all of you. My phone number's on there as well, so anyone can call with any legal inquiries, and you will get the services of the greatest lawyer and professional wrestler in America.
And we'll be including a number of those links in the description for this podcast if you're catching us a little later on whatever platform that may be. And please, once again, please check out everything at indywrestling.us. Support these guys, see them in action, see the matches we were talking about, and discover new ones. And of course, please go check out our support pages over there, and keep an eye out because a number of the guys have special codes, and we'll be including these guys as well. I'm not sure if I sent all of you guys yours to help them out in this pandemic and get you guys discounts on the indywrestling.us as well. Trying to help everybody out so that everybody's good to go when we're get the green light, right?
Yeah.
So
and you should use this time as an opportunity to, practice your promos, practice your facial expressions, practice your punches. I hung a coffee mug from the wall in my kitchen, and I take 10 shots at it without trying to punch it. There's stuff we can do. It stinks that we're all locked inside, but, use this as an opportunity to work on things that you're better at. I mean, I'm trying to work on, there's a lot of things I could improve in wrestling, but, I'm trying to work on it as best I can while we're locked inside. So
absolutely.
And also, no time better than now to study tape.
Yeah.
And I can't stress this enough. You have nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
The WWE Network's $9.99 a month. YouTube is
free,
filled with old footage. I've been watching tons of old All Japan and Ring of Honor circa 2003, 2006 lately. There is just such a well of footage there that you can watch, pick up nuances, pick up all the little things that matter in this business. Take advantage of that now before life gets hectic again, and you continue to go back and make excuses while you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I can tell you too, when we come back and start working, if you think you're going to step into the ring and be able to put on a 30-minute match from the jump, it's going to be tough. So, I feel like I'm ready because all I've done is relied on character stuff and screaming at people. So that hasn't changed. But I'll be ready to work a 10-minute match when I get back because 7 minutes of it will be me yelling at that girl at the Rise show who has the high pitched voice and screams. Asia! So I'm ready.
Awesome.
Well, I've been. I don't know if you know this, Wallace, but I'm technically in a coffin right now, so I don't think my muscles will be atrophied by the time we come back.
Possibly. I mean, if you were like that Ryan Reynolds character where he punches his way out of the Buried Alive, or the girl from Kill Bill, like maybe you're cool. I don't know.
Oh,
I can't see my surroundings, but from the little Wi-Fi signal I get, Brandon K says I'm in his garage. I wish I keep messaging him, getting him to try to bring me a blanket or something, because it's really drafty in here. It's the middle of like summer, and I'm freezing out here.
wait,
It's nice of PV Smooth to have given you the Under Armour headphones when he buried you in the casket.
I know. He felt kind of bad. He kind of roughed me up a bit. He left me some chapstick too. My lips have never been more moist.
Do you know who you should call to talk about that?
Huh.
Call the coroner.
On that note, thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next time. Support
All right.
indie wrestling.
See you guys. Bye.